What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Heel Deal podcast. My name is Ben, and I'm here with my partner, Zach.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And we've got a great show for you guys. Basketball, and more basketball in the wake of the disappointing UVA game and with Duke coming up on Wednesday. It's an exciting time for Tar Heel fans, but we're going to give you guys the rundown of UNC sports. So this past week, UNC women's basketball got a win against Clemson, lost against Pitt, and then avenged the men's team against UVA. UNC baseball and softball both started up. The baseball team has started 3-0 with a series sweep against Xavier. Great start for them. UNC softball has gone 2-0 against Michigan and 1-1 versus Northwestern in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. UNC men's lacrosse, which started just this past week, they are 3-0 with wins against Mercer, Furman, and Harvard. UNC women's lacrosse has gone 3-0 overall. This past week, they've gone 2-0 with wins against High Point and ECU. So, all right, Zach, how about we get into the real meat of this episode? How'd you feel about our game against UVA?
Well, overall, I think we gave them a great game, but ultimately, I think the better team that night won. And, Virginia was a little bit desperate coming in, coming off the loss to Duke that, we talked a little bit about last episode. And they had to have a win, and they clawed their way back in when it looked like we had a chance to open it up there in the second half and, hit their shots when they had to and, got out of here with a big-time road win. So, disappointing, but definitely a really good basketball team that they have.
Yeah, I agree. It was a disappointing game, but leads me to ask you, is UNC ready to play against the big dogs? We've held our own against the middle of the ACC, those lower but still ranked teams, FSU, Louisville, State. But does this team have enough to contend against Duke and UVA?
I think they do. I think they just have to figure out a way to, when they get a lead, when they get moving, like we seem to always do because of our, awesome shooting this season, they have to figure out a way to get stops in crucial moments, and they have to find a way to sustain some sort of offense that doesn't rely on hitting, deep threes in the middle of the second half. That's really what got us beat against Virginia, was we had a 7-point lead. It seems like everything's going our way. Jordan's in the house. The place is loud as all get out, and they slowed the game down against us, and we kind of panicked a little bit. We thought when they started clawing back in that we had to make up for it by hitting, more threes and more quick jumpers to keep the crowd alive, and eventually they just inched their way back in to where they took the lead, and then after that you're playing against the best defense in the country.
Yeah, I mean, when that well runs dry, we're kind of toast. We've seen that in our losses. We're not a team that can shoot poorly and still win.
Yeah.
We need to be hot, but...
Exactly. We've touched on that a little bit before, but this is definitely a team that, is going to thrive when they shoot the ball, 50% plus for the whole game. And that's tough to do. I mean, you can't rely on shooting 50% plus every game. And that's really where they're going to have to improve. And it's the inside. It's, and it's not panicking in situations like that. I don't want to say they choked because Virginia's a really good basketball team, but I think that they definitely did panic a little bit, and they realized that they had to extend the lead further to make it safe. And then when they realized that, they pushed too hard, and Virginia took advantage of the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. But how'd UNC look against that hybrid man-zone defense that you talked about in the last episode?
Yeah, first half, they didn't do well against it, to be honest with you. You saw them taking a lot of threes early. Now, granted, they were making them, and that's really what kept Carolina in the game in the first half, if you ask me, is we shot the ball well enough from three to keep ourselves in it. But we just couldn't get the ball really inside and establish any presence. And really what shocked me about that is that Virginia did not even play Jack Salt that much. They kind of went small against us, and I don't really know why Tony Bennett decided to do that. I imagine it's because he wanted to be able to run better. But Salt wasn't even really in the game, and we still were unable to get it inside in the first half and really relied on the three. Now, second half, as I alluded to a little bit earlier, we got out in transition a little bit. We're able to get it inside to Garrison a little bit, drive the basket. A little bit easier there. We saw that's when we took the lead, naturally, when we can make them defend the whole court. But I think all in all, we did about an average job against it. Definitely some missed opportunities, but we did show that it is possible for us to break down a tough defense like that. We just have to get to where we're playing at our pace.
Yeah, they didn't look utterly helpless, but how much do you think not having a dominant big man impacted UNC? How much did that hurt them in a game like that?
I think it hurt them because, when you look back at our other games with Virginia, when they've played the same defense and they've had similar talent, when we've had players like Bryce Johnson, we didn't have that kind of trouble. He was a presence inside that Virginia, there was only so much they could do about it. Now Garrison's still developing, Manley in and out of the game for injury, and then Brandon Huffman is, I'd say streaky is a great word for him. Really, we don't have that one guy, as you kind of allude to, that can really force them to change up their defense down there. And I think that's really what, caught up to us.
Jeez, did Huffman even get any minutes in that game?
I know.
You like to joke about how he comes. What was it? He comes in, misses a shot, gets a foul, and then sits.
Yeah, I usually make a joke and just see if he's gonna, score a basket, commit a foul within 2 minutes or so, over under.
Yeah.
Usually he does at least commit the foul.
I think the Miami game we got a kick out of that because he really did get in, miss a shot, foul, and then go sit.
And then come to. Yeah, he really just kind of alleviates Garrison, I think. And, he's going to be a good player for us, but I think it'll take him some more time.
Yeah, no, I agree. Oh, but we're talking about what UNC didn't do too well. What went right, in your opinion, at the UVA?
For the Tar Heels?
Yeah.
I think, we shot the ball well enough to be in the game in the first half, so the threes were going in. Had they not gone in the first half, it would have been a blowout.
Mm-hmm.
I really do think so. I don't know exactly how many points we had in the paint in the first half, but it wasn't many.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching it thinking, no, it's a good thing we're hitting our threes right now because this is what is keeping us in this. But second half, I think what went right for us is that we were finally able to beat them rebounding. That's a statistic that really kind of jumped out at me, is that we out rebounded them, I think, by double digits.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably that statistic is most representative from that time in the middle of the second half where we did gain that lead. That's what went right. We got on the glass, ran in transition, didn't let them set their defense, didn't let them communicate, got some open looks, drove the basket, passed the ball around, and we saw what happened.
Yeah, I was really surprised with how Garrison played in particular. It seemed like once they got him going, the entire team started going. That just shows how important having an interior presence is to this team.
Absolutely.
When someone can get into the paint and dish it out if they have to, get open looks. I don't know. Too many possessions UVA forced the Tar Heels to dribble out the clock and go for just a crappy shot. And that's something you honestly predicted. UVA, it felt like, my bad. It felt like they controlled the clock at all times when they were hot. And then once we started to dictate the pace of play, that's when we started clawing our way back into this game.
Yeah, and when we had the lead, they were playing on our terms, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
And I started to notice as we started panicking a little bit as we got down the stretch in crunch time that we would miss a shot, and Virginia, instead of doing like what they were doing at the beginning of the second half and maybe rushing some shots themselves, they started taking 10 seconds to get the ball up the court and really putting pressure on our defense to make a stop defending the whole shot clock.
Yeah.
And that's when eventually Kyle Guy got open.
Seeing him pop open at the three-point line, you might as well just give him 3 points.
I know.
That was frustrating.
And Ty Jerome's going to find him. He's really going to find whoever's open.
Yeah.
But especially Kyle. They've been playing together for the whole duration of their time at Virginia. And they're really a good tandem at the 1 and 2 for them. But, all in all, I think the Tar Heels showed that they can compete with teams like that. I don't think we have to worry about them being able to play at a top 5 level. It's just a matter of can they sustain that for a whole 40 minutes of basketball.
Yeah, it was good. They didn't look in over their heads. They looked like they belong in that top tier of the ACC along with Duke and UVA. But okay, hypothetically, ACC tournament, semifinals or finals, UNC meets UVA. What do you think they need to do differently?
Well, I think it really playing against Virginia, when you're a team that relies on the three-point ball like we do. And I know I sound like a broken record saying that, but I think the proof is in the statistics. We do rely on that a lot this season. I think we have to get some more stops in crucial moments. We need to make them speed up when they have the ball, as opposed to trying to speed them up when we have the ball.
Does that mean playing more like of a press coverage or just trying to like double team the ball handler?
I think when we played a little bit of press coverage in that game, we had some success.
I'm remembering.
Yeah. I don't really know why we didn't do that more down the stretch. Maybe because we weren't hitting our shots and we were trying to. I'm not really sure. You'd have to ask Roy about that. but yeah, you're right. I mean, they did force some turnovers when they played press, and I think that works. But it also kind of can wear your team out eventually. And against a methodical team like Virginia, you need your legs down the stretch. So, I don't know. I think that would be a good starter. I think it starts on the defensive end, really, when you're playing any great team. And then after that, you can hopefully get some stops and then try to play your style of offensive basketball.
Yeah, it did seem a little bit like the early season struggles closing out at the three-point arc. That came back to haunt them a little bit. And if there's any team you can't have that happen against, it's UVA.
They're going to capitalize on your mistakes.
Yeah.
They're very tough. They don't beat themselves. On both sides of the basketball, really. They're not going to.
Yeah, maybe this was a good win in a way, especially leading up to Duke. Hopefully that'll kick their butts into shape on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
But why don't we get into the second game this week against Wake Forest over in Winston-Salem? How'd that go for the Heels?
Pretty good. To a tune of 95-57 good. This was pretty much all Tar Heels from the start, Ben.
Yeah.
I mean, we shot the ball 62% from the field for the whole game. But really, to be honest with you, the 62% is not even representative of what it was for the duration of like the entire first half and into the second. It was in the 70s.
Jeez.
I mean, and that was from three and from the field in general. So, I mean, we shot lights out. Cam was unbelievable. Dude hit 7 threes in this game, 27 points overall.
10 for 13
exactly
from the field.
Yep.
That's wild. Hopefully, still got some juice left for Duke this weekend.
I know. Hopefully that was a good tune-up and we can bring that momentum in there. And of course, it doesn't hurt the fact that Wake shot 32% for the game. I think that, you look at those numbers by itself and you can really kind of tell the story of this whole game.
Yeah. And what I saw, Zach and I actually didn't get to watch the game. We were driving up to Blacksburg, Virginia, but Nasir Little playing the first half, and they rested him the second half. That's a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, I was a little bit shocked that he played at all. If it were up to me, I would have probably just kind of kept him out of this game.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, but Roy's got his reasons.
You're right. It's a great sign that he is out there. He is, he's good. Maybe not 100%, but
you'd have to think that means the green light for Duke, though.
Absolutely,
and that's a key depth piece right there.
Definitely, and we'll get into a little bit more about that later. But I definitely agree with you that he's a key player in this upcoming game and going on Wednesday.
Yeah, no, Wake Forest. It could have been one of those trap games that we like to harp on about, but it was good to see the Heels maybe exercise a few demons there. Cam getting his season high in points. Yeah, I just really hope he can keep that going.
Yeah, we put them down from the start. I think we were up 18-0.
Yeah, no, it was something ridiculous like that.
Just no hope for them from the beginning. We came out firing and they didn't.
But that's what good teams do. You could see the Miami game as a little bit of a hiccup, but I think Miami's a vastly superior team to Wake Forest. This was a game the Tar Heels knew what they had to do, and they just got business done.
Yep.
It wasn't a big road trip at all. So hopefully that was the equivalent of a nice jog to get them ready for Wednesday.
Yeah, they needed to work out the kinks from Virginia. I know that left a sore taste in their mouth. Losing at home, we had countless players. Mike was here. There were multiple others, Antoine Jameson and just, everyone. But anyway, they had a sore taste in their mouth from that game. They felt like they should have won, and they didn't. Big home loss, and then they needed something to, get themselves believing again that we can still dominate.
Yeah, give me a close loss in February instead of March.
Oh,
100%.
100%. Give me a loss anywhere instead of March.
Well, why don't we get into The big issue of today's episode, this week's upcoming game against number 2 Duke. Shoot, I bet you they'll be number 1 by the time we play, with Tennessee losing to Kentucky, yesterday?
Yeah, it was last night. Yes, last night. And, really I think they should be, as much as that hurts me to say.
Mm-hmm.
I hate, kind of conceding to the fact that they are the number 1 team in the country right now. I think they're playing that way. They're firing on all cylinders, really. They show no legitimate weakness in a lot of ways. And it's tough. And, the heels haven't made out for them in multiple regards.
So what you're saying is this is an uphill battle, any way you look at it.
It'll be an uphill battle, and that's because of it's because of the quality of their team this year, and it's also because of where we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Cameron Indoor Stadium is, what I think is the hardest place to play in basketball. Now, I've never been there. I've obviously never played a game there, but just watching teams from other conferences and even from the ACC that play there, you can just tell it messes with their heads. I mean, the students are essentially on the court with you.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're inbounding a ball on the side of the court, they could touch you. They're so close. And they're like literally right in your ear, screaming, and it just feels like they're on the court with you.
It's just impossible to ignore. And you know that they're going twice as hard for UNC.
Absolutely. They do every season, just like we do all the time. It's just a really hard place to play. But when we look at the X's and O's, if you will, of this game, I think really what stands out for me is at least on paper, our inability to match up with Zion Williamson.
Yeah, I mean, that was going to be the first thing I was going to ask you. How, if at all, do we match up? Do we have anyone that can sit with him in the paint?
I don't think we have any one player that can match up with him in every regard.
Mm-hmm.
I think Garrison can match up with him strength-wise if he had to, but he's not fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think Luke maybe could keep with him speed-wise in some situations, not all, but he's not strong enough.
Yeah, I already, I'm going to have nightmares about Zion just baptizing Luke.
He's a serious player, and I know we joke sometimes, you and I and our friends about how ESPN just finds a reason to talk about him.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, when you look at the statistics, when you look at what he does for their team, he's really deserving of it. And again, I hate saying stuff like this because it's Duke, and I don't hate a team in any sport worse than I hate Duke. But he deserves the hype. He's that good.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be a dominant player for the rest of the season and probably beyond. He just does so many things well. And like you asked me, we don't have a matchup for him. I think for us to begin to chip away at that, we're going to have to give him some different defensive looks. We're going to have to ensure that he doesn't get his hands on the ball at places on the court where he really excels, like on the low block and stuff like that, where he can just make one move and spin and lay up.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to have to try to force him to take outside shots. And that's going to be a combination of players giving him good looks and forcing him to move the ball and not just go one-on-one straight up for a tomahawk dunk.
Yeah, I mean, it scares me because the Duke's close games this season, the game against Louisville, even when Barrett and Reddish aren't shooting that well, just having straight up poor games, it seems like Zion is still having a good game.
Yeah.
Like Zion he's consistent, he's strong, but I don't think people talk enough about his agility. That guy averages over 2 steals per game, I think. Gosh, you just got to be careful around him.
Yeah, and kind of, it's interesting, you mentioned, like, some of them can have bad nights, but then because they have so many players that have such great talent, that's okay. Like, they don't have to have all of them firing all night, and, God help you if they are. So, it's kind of, honestly, it reminds me a little bit.
They could beat the Cavaliers if they were... I mean, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah. Well, they've beaten the Virginia Cavaliers, too. But which also kind of worries me. But anyway, what I was saying was I think there's some similarities to them, of course, all relative to the league they're playing in, of the Golden State Warriors, where the Warriors can have 2 of their, 5 All-Stars can have a bad night. And guess what? There's still 3 All-Stars on the team that could have a great night. You're still going to lose. Duke's similar in that regard for the college level because Reddish could have a bad game. Zion could even have a bad game. and R.J. Barrett could still have a great game.
Mm-hmm. And then they still take home the win.
Exactly. And then they do enough to where they stay in it, and those guys that are not having great nights kind of work out the kinks, and by the end of it, they make enough plays to win. And that's really what's so tough, is that there's not one guy we can look at and say, hey, if we stop him, we win. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, if we stop this play, we win. There's so many ways they can beat you.
Well, the thing is, if they put all their effort on Zion in the paint, say they dish it to him in the paint, Garrison's on him and Luke comes in, it's going to shift the defense and open up someone on the three, and they're just going to pass the ball out and bang home a three. I just... Schematically, I'm concerned.
Yeah, and Duke's offense really, regardless of who they're playing, really is a drive and dish offense.
Mm-hmm.
They usually are predicated on the point guard or whoever brings the ball up, which for them these days it could be anyone could bring the ball up, including Zion. And it's a drive and dish, so they're going to screen at the top of the key. They're going to try to drive in, draw a defender from one of the other two wings, and then they're going to dish it out for a three. And usually they're going to hit it.
Yep.
But I think for the Tar Heels, you mentioned it worries you schematically. It certainly worries me schematically.
Mm-hmm.
I think really though, unless it's Marquise Bolden, their center,
mm-hmm.
or Zion, you run whoever has the ball off that 3-point line.
Yeah.
I think that we have to try to get the other guys besides those two players. Because Zion, although he can shoot the three, he can. I'm not saying he can't.
I feel a lot better about him shooting a three than him shooting like a hook in the post.
Or jumping and like basically putting his chin on the backboard and of course throwing it down. But those two guys are probably their not so good 3-point shooters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially Bolden.
Yeah.
Let them shoot it from outside or wherever they want to, from outside of the paint. But the other guys, Reddish, Trey Jones, R.J. Barrett, you got to get out on them. If we start going under screens and stuff, it's going to be bad.
We're toast. Yeah, we have enough trouble closing out on the arc as it is.
We've had a lot of bad memories playing against Duke in particular where we haven't closed out on certain players, and we've lost games because of it. Mm-hmm. Cough, cough, Tyler Zeller. But, besides all that stuff and reminiscing about bad memories, we can make good memories in this game, I think, if we do close out on those guys, make them drive the basket. Because I think for us to win in general, we're going to have to hit a lot of threes, and it's going to have to be that kind of game. For us, I just don't think we can get into too much of a trading threes with them. I think...
that's what we tried to do against UVA, and that didn't work out.
Yeah, trying to be as objective as possible. I think Duke will win a shootout against us. So we have to find a way to make them make twos instead of threes. I think that's why we close out on the shooters.
So you think they're going to shoot a high percentage, but hopefully those will be twos as opposed to threes?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to have to hit our share of threes, and we're going to have to prevent them from hitting 15 or 16, which they will.
Yeah, it's been a tale of two different teams for UNC this season. We got, the Wake UNC, where we shoot 60-something%, and then we have our first Louisville game UNC. We got our UVA UNC, where we can't buy a shot.
Yeah, I think in the UVA game we shot 30-something% for the game, and then I know in the Louisville game we shot in the teens from three at least.
We're going to see what kind of team shows up to Cameron Indoor, but as scared as I am of losing this game, I am equally as scared of blowing a lead and then having to look at it on our Twitter feed for the next few weeks. I might have to drop out of school, but
absolutely. And it's interesting you bring that up because since 2011, now granted we play there one time a year. I know 2011 seems like a long time ago because it is 2019 now, but we play there once a year, and since then we have had 2 double-digit leads at least, and blown both of them and lost at Cameron. For example, 2011, we're up 16 at one point at Cameron. This was Harrison Barnes' freshman year, okay? To put
listener discretion advised here.
We lose by 6.
Oh.
Up 16, lose by 6 at Cameron. Another one, this is very recent, 2018, last year, when we traveled to Cameron. We were up by 10 at halftime, 45-35. We lose by 10 points. So the point in bringing all that up is to not bring back, terrible memories, which they are, but it's to point out that Cameron Indoor Stadium is the kind of place where if one of their players hits a big three, or somebody gets a big block, or somebody gets a big dunk, that place turns into just its own entity just by itself. And
Zion beats on his chest. Like, it's... I just can't imagine another place where momentum can turn in their favor.
It's so loud,
so fast.
And it's like, it really feels like this. Like, they could be going, 3 of 20-something from 3 up until someone hits a big shot in a big moment, right? And once they hit that, it's like the basket becomes, 20 feet around for them, and they just can't miss anything. And then before you know it, you're up 10, and then you're down 1. And then where do you go?
Yep.
And then they're in it, the crowd's in it, and the hardest place to play comes alive.
Well, if you're UNC, maybe you want a close game all the way through and just find a way to get that last shot. Maybe you don't want to build a huge lead just to have it blown.
Well, I think they wouldn't turn. I don't think they would turn down building a big lead. But by your logic, I do understand what you're saying. They're going to make a run. Duke is going to explode at some point during this game. Well, I just hope we can weather the storm enough, or have enough of a cushion, or enough of something going for us where we can fall back on it and it doesn't end the game right there.
Yeah.
Because usually once they explode in the second half, it's really hard to recover from that. And often our teams, even our really good ones, have had trouble doing that and lost at the Smith Center.
Mm-hmm.
Or not Smith Center, Cameron. I apologize.
And a lot of our good teams may not have ever seen a Duke team this talented.
No.
So, really, I can see it going either way, but we just got to hope for something special from the Tar Heels. I know a lot of the media does not believe in UNC's chances. 81% Duke victory according to ESPN's Basketball Power Index. It's worrying. That seems like a big number, but we're gonna have a lot to talk about after this game, like one way or the other. But Zach, give it to me in just 1 or 2 sentences. UNC will win this game if
they run Duke's key players off of the 3-point line, and we shoot above 50% from 3.
All right, and the inverse, UNC is going to lose this game if
anything else but that happens. And one more comment on what you said about the Basketball Power Index. To me, that's a little bit high, even for how well Duke is playing and where that is. I mean, this is the best basketball rivalry ever. There's not a better college basketball, or really basketball rivalry ever. This game
give me a better sports rivalry, dude.
This game will be close, and we'll see how it turns out in the final 8-7 minutes when crunch time gets there. But I think this will be close from the beginning, and the Tar Heels will. If Duke wins this game, regardless of where it is or how well they play, they will know we were there. I just hope that maybe because we won, not because we just played well.
Mm-hmm. Rushing Franklin this Wednesday night would sure be sweet.
It would definitely be nice.
Even with my midterm on Thursday.
I think you'll forget all about that if this happens. I think it'll be an experience for both of us.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all the time we have today, guys. This has been The Heel Deal. I'm Ben.
And I'm Zach.
And especially this week, guys, don't forget, go to hell, Duke.
Absolutely.